Hello, everyone. It is me, your host, Jaquell, and I am here again um, to bring some awesome insight on our grieving and our mental health so that we can also grieve together healthy, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Today, we're going to really kind of dive a little deep into a subject matter that I feel that we overlook. I feel that we don't really touch bases on enough, and that is anger. So I got my laptop today because I really want to make sure that I hit some more points that God gave me to really share on this platform with you all, so that we are grieving healthy together. And those of us that are either beginning the journey, ending the journey, somebody this might be your first time on this podcast, watching this podcast. This is something that we just want to ensure that we understand. Hey, we're here for you. You're not alone. And there are so many out outlets that are available and resources that are available that we want to ensure that you have. So I just want to kind of jump into about this connection of grief and anger. And grief doesn't always show up in tears, right? So sometimes it comes out as frustration, from rage, from emotional numbness. And in this episode, we want to explore about this powerful connection of grief and anger, and why it's normal to feel furious after your loss, but also how to manage these things. And so we're jumping into, if you've ever lost someone or something deeply that is important to you, you might have felt a fire in your chest or urge to scream, an an overwhelmingness that just overtakes you. It's a sensation, an impulse. And the grief and the anger comes together, and they're connected, and it affects how your mental health um, goes forward. And in this, we have to understand that if we're not careful, anger will consume us. Anger will overtake everything that we have. Anger will take things aside, and it'll make you think that you're okay, but you're not. Whether you're internalizing your anger and your feelings and your emotions, or you're externalizing your anger and your feelings and emotion, it will not allow you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually to really understand and process healthy, because now you're in an emotional state versus processing and reviewing the factual evidence that is in front of you, and how you can properly take charge and properly move forward. Um, when we understand the links, we have grief and we have anger. I think it's important to also understand that everybody does it differently, right? So everybody does not um, know how to deal with anger. And this needs to be noted that anger is a normal reaction, right? Whether it's internal, external, however you're doing it, um, of how our body and our minds protect us from the pain. But the thing about that statement, it's always not always about the loss itself. It can sometimes stem from just an injustice of being powerless, feeling that you don't have a voice, feeling that you are being rejected. Um, all of these emotions now sums up, and now you have anger. And I need to state this, that anger is not specified to certain people, places, and things, right? So it does not specify your age, your race, your culture. It does not specify your gender. It does not specify your size, your height, because a lot of people feel, and they departmentalize what anger looks like according to who you are. And then you have some people that say you cannot express your emotions because who you are, right? So when you're understanding that you are this person, that you are a person that is upset, we see little children and we call those what, tantrums. When they don't get their way, when they're upset, when they're mad, and things of that nature, they begin to show through anger. And if it's not controlled, it overflows. We've all seen well, majority of us probably seen that movie, Inside Out, and then you saw Inside Out too, and it had all the different emotions that our body, excuse me, that our body will go through, and how some stuff was internalized, and how the young lady, she was really, Riley was just going through so much, and some stuff she just couldn't take it no more, especially when she was becoming a preteen. She just could not process on dealing with all of these various emotions. And if we're not careful, the emotions will overtake us, we lose our self control, and then other things begin to happen. And we allow the emotional piece of us, the side of us, to overtake. And now nobody's listening, nobody can understand, nobody can confirm or deny because you're emotional and you're not allowing yourself to really be heard. Um, so when you're feeling this way and you're having these emotions and you're having these feelings and reservations about stuff, we have to know how to understand how anger shows up. How can we, someone on the outside looking in, as someone that is dealing or experiencing that? Because sometimes we don't know that we're angry. We don't know that we're upset, or we could be snapping at someone and don't really realize that it's not what's happening in front of us, it's what's actually been going on. And we're just taking this opportunity of lashing out. If you ever had a really bad day at work and you came home and you started just kind of snapping on your family and everybody looking at you like, what's wrong with you today? And in your mind, I'm fine. And they're like, no, you're not. Sometimes I will use this phrase with some of my close friends. I'll be like, hey, you're a little short today. You good? You good? You short. Am I short? And it's now I'm able to recognize that there is something that could be happening, um, something that transpired prior to you dealing with something. But why is this important about anger? Because anger a lot of times gets swept under the rug when it deals with grief. And a lot of people don't even know that they were grieving, mourning. Some people say, well, I only want to mourn, I don't want to grieve. However you look at it. But we are talking to people that don't even understand what grief is. So before we can talk about other levels, I need you to at least understand the basic concept. So when we are dealing with someone that doesn't know that they're dealing with anger and they're grieving, um, it comes off that you're very bitter. It comes off as if you're very snappy. People are trying to help, but we're lashing out, we're snapping off, we're popping off. And so in that moment, the support that we want to have is now starting to push back because we're always snapping, we're always popping, we're always in a negative stance, we're always upset, 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 upset. And we don't really know how to control because there's so much happening in our mind, in our setting, so that we're not together. And what happens in that moment is that those that are really close to us, we begin to hurt them. I talked about before about hurt people in one of the short videos I did. And when we're emotionally involved in things, and when I say things, we're already dealing with a loss of this, we're going through this, we're going through that, everything begins to build up. And if we're not taking control of the situation, remember I talked about dealing with it versus acceptance. And when we're not taking that control, we're allowing ourselves emotionally become involved. And now we're not thinking soberly. Um, Sober mind does not always mean that you are not drunk versus drunk. Sober mind is just thinking collectively with the clear thought, clear conscience versus being emotionally attached. So let's kind of separate some things here. When anger shows up in grief and it's internal, we do a lot of self blame. We're very irritable, and then sometimes we're just flat out depressed. But that depressed has an anger, rage tint. So that means every time somebody asks you something, you're upset, you don't want to talk, you're just really irritable when, even in a conversation. Um, and then when you're giving that information or when you're saying now it's coming external, we're snapping at everybody, we're having outbursts, negative outbursts, we're having risky behavior. So That means we're just doing things that could be self-harming to ourselves, harm to others, putting yourself in a very unsafe situation. Um, Sometimes it could be disguised to where it's numbness, control issues, hyper productivity, um, and this is where the conversation is that sometimes you don't have to yell to be angry. Okay, you don't always have to be loud per se to express that you're angry. But that's what we saw as kids, right? When we had to do the different faces and emotions and expressions, we always assumed that anger was always loud. Sometimes you can be so in the tone that I'm in right now, but in that tone, it's extremely, you're still snapping. As I would say, you're very short with your responses. Um, the things that we're saying um, is very hurtful to others, whether it's over the phone, whether it's via text, whether it's, you know, if you're conversing through social media, however it is, we begin to hurt people because we don't know how to fully express our feelings in that moment. And sometimes it's better to say, I don't want to talk about it right now. I'm unavailable right now. I'm not answering the phone. Like, hey, I'm here, but I still want to talk. Those things give you moments to now analyze, um, seek to understand when you're ready, and then strategize on how we want the positive outcome to be. Anger brings on um, physical. What's the word I would like to use? Physical, long term. Um, in healthcare, we talk about how long term damage. Okay, and anger, it will tense your body. It will have your body in different settings that are negative impulses. So when your body is super tense, super tense, what happens? You're doing a lot of bobbing your head. You're doing a lot of this. You're doing a lot of that. Your body is very tense, and your body is cringing because it doesn't know how to release. It doesn't know what to do because we're still trying to. The brain is still trying to figure out. Okay, how can we release this stress, this anger? Because now it's building up on stress. It's building up on other things. It's building up on this. It's building up on that. And now it's causing your body to be in a complete tense state. Can you actually walk around like this every single day? Have you been walking around like this every single day? Physically, probably not. But this is how your body feels every single time you're not releasing the anger. Your body it wants to break free, but it can't because we have this impulse. And true enough, those of us that are um, Christians and we know the Word of God, we say the first part about what the Bible says, the anger will sin not. Absolutely, that's what it says. But finish the rest of it out, you know. Um, and why is that important that we really establish the whole part of why God said the anger is sin not. Don't let the sun go down your wrath. Okay. Don't wait till the end to really verbalize and express how you feel. So what am I saying in that moment? I can't talk, I can't do this, and I can't do that. Yes, go ahead and say that. But at the same time, it is imperative for you to understand what damages you're doing physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually to your body, how it's affecting you. And I can definitely validate that because, and I'm going to use the example of what damage I caused to my body from having unresolved anger issues. Um, Losing a parent as a child, um, I felt like my best friend walked out the door when my father passed. And it's a touchy subject in a sense, but I expressed so much about how much I really love my father. No discredit to my mom. I just had a very close bond with my father. definitely daddy's guilt, right? Um, my father knew what to say, how to say. And listen, those that know me know Jaquell was that child that I was going to get a whooping. Okay? I was gonna get it. My father, my nickname was Scooby Doo. Okay? Like I was going to get a whooping for whatever I did. Okay? And it wasn't and my father and it always had that one cousin, I'm not gonna say his name, who was always there when we got a whooping. Him and my god brother was I was like, man, every time well, when we with me. Always get I was like, why every time I'm about to get a whooping, one of them gotta be here. And so they know the stories like, you know, why did you such mm, I don't know. But even if I knew I was gonna get a whooping, I just told my father, like, so this is what I did because I didn't know I was gonna get it. Asked them to tell y'all the story about Jaquell took it upon herself to drive her daddy's car because I tried to park it across the street. They'll tell you about it. But I said that to say I just love my dad. But when my father passed away, I had unanswered questions. I had reservations. I had outside feelings. I felt numb. I started feeling inadequate. The confidence and things that my father, especially talked to me and my sisters, you know, you have big, beautiful daughters. I got some big, beautiful daughters. I had this and that. So then my confidence and stuff started to change. I felt like I was isolated. I felt like everything I did wasn't good enough. And I had so much anger. And let me also say, I was angry with God. How dare you take my father out of me? That's how I felt at the age of 14. The anger built up so much that my body was having reactions and nobody could understand what was going on. There was even an incident. I passed out in school, um, and to this day, my best friend was in there, and I heard her, but I could not respond. They had to transfer me to the hospital, and it was just so much anger built up, and the doctors just kept telling my mom she's under a lot of stress. And so, parents, we sometimes feel like, okay, you're a kid. What do you be stressed about? Now that I'm older and I really took medical um, in my background, it really makes me now be more alert when kids are saying, I don't feel good today, I'm upset, I'm angry. Let's talk about those feelings, let's get all of that out because we don't want our children to develop other medical or mental health issues that could be hurt severely in the long run. Because I was bottling up all and internalizing all of these feelings, not expressing myself, even though I was trying to write, um, I was in like national books because of my poetry. I wrote plays. I wrote all these things because I felt that's how I was getting my anger out. But I still had so much anger resolved consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, dealing with all of these different avenues. And I was so furious because I was so upset about my father leaving. And I had an amazing mom that put all of us in counseling. So outside of us meeting our counselors and stuff at school, we still had family counseling, outside counseling as well. But I was so angry because I could not understand why my father was gone. I did not understand like he was a bad person, he was a horrible person. Why was he gone? And then when stuff started happening to me after my father left, I began to have more resentment and angry and anger towards so many different people because the first thing I started saying to myself, if my father was here, right, you wouldn't be able to do that. You wouldn't talk to me like that. You wouldn't treat me like that. You wouldn't do this. You wouldn't do that. Because my father had a presence. My father had this big, I'm just trying to paint y'all a picture of where someone that's overcome this, how it happened. But my father had a presence. My father was a big glue to the family. My father, even though I was gonna get a whooping, y'all, after I got done, I still sat next to this person like I just didn't get a whooping. Like I was very transparent with him. I was able to open up to him. But this person was no longer here. And as a 14-year-old, who's in the church. I understand when the Lord calls people home, they call home. I can't process that. I'm actually angry with God right now. I don't want to talk to God. I don't want to talk. I don't want to pray. I don't want to. I don't want. 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 I begin to be very defensive because I felt like I had to be defensive in every single thing. I had to defend everything. I had to acknowledge everything because I was by myself and I was isolated. And I never forget that my mom, she recently shared with me that I had made a statement to her. And I told my mom, I said, I don't ever remember saying that to you. And I said, I would never say that to you. Hello, that's your mother. I would never say that to you. And she was like, and I was like, it hurt me that I said that to her. And it was a hurt, one thing that hurt people, hurt people. Sometimes we don't even realize the damage that we're causing on other people. The damage and the hurtful things that we say. We need to stop saying stick and stones may break my bones, words never hurt me. That's a lie. Words hurt. Words cause other physical reactions from the person that's being hurt, from the person that feels a certain way. It brings all other emotions, jealousy, rage, impulses of negative, and now there's reactions. They react before they actually thought, um, because of all of this rage. By the age of 16, I am taking hypertension medication. I am only 16 years old. I'm fully working. I think that at that time I was working at Kmart. I'm working. I'm in school full time. I'm doing everything possible. I'm trying to find outlets because I can't be in one spot. But I'm enraged still. And every little thing affected me in a negative stance. And the negative stance, the negative impulse has now caused my body to always be in a. There is no way I should be 16 years old with hypertension between 140 to 150. Why are you, what's going on? I am only 16. I don't see eye to eye with any and everybody, so I'm going to still continue to do what sticks to myself. Do this, do that. I don't feel the fullness of love in my mind. So I'm sticking by myself. I'm sticking by myself. I'm sticking by myself. I'm sticking by myself. And I'm still having all these angers and so much other stuff is still adding up. I'm graduating high school, still taking blood pressure medication. And this has nothing to do, once again, with the size, because it's the fact that it had nothing to do with my gender, my age. It's the fact that this girl had so much anger. Things begin to build up. And then when stuff is happening, you still feeling isolated. You feeling by yourself. You feeling like you can't talk to no one. These are red flags that you even analyze and see in yourself, but you're still trying to cover it up. So, Jaquell, how are you covering up your anger? Thanks for asking. So, because I go to church, at that time I was just still, let me just still get up here and sing. Let me still get up here and do stuff. But I was still hurting. And I was angry because I at this point I was analyzing and trying to find scriptures on why did you take my father, Lord, and why did this happen? Why did that happen? I was using this, and then when other stuff started happening to various family members that I was close to, it was just a buildup of so much anger, and it caused so much stress. My body's still like this, still super tense, right? So when stuff is not going right at home, when stuff is not going right at the job, no, your body is still tense, and it's still from the root of something that happened. So even though I'm still angry about my father, I'm still growing, I'm still developing. I'm graduating high school, I'm graduating college, I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. I'm still processing, I'm moving forward. Had a child, oh, you know, graduated again. Now I got, now I'm getting these degrees under my belt. I'm still and I'm still like this. Right when there could even be a moment of letting go, I kept it. I kept it selfishly because I felt that I could figure this out all by myself. And I probably had people in my corner telling me, Jaquell, what is going on? What is happening? I could not trust no one because I was being violated in several manners, in several ways, that talking to someone about it at this point wasn't going to suffice any other emotions. Anger is a root of rejection and brings on rebellion. And so these two strong men can kill you physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. By the age of 23, I had a stroke that affected my left side. My son was 3 years old, could have lost his mom because I had so much anger. You're not even supposed to understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. When people see me walk, I am a walking miracle. I am a walking testimony. I had so much anger built up, so much anger, still at the age of 23. And it was then that I started understanding that people say, well, she's stressed, stressed, stressed. Stress is the silent killer. I had to get to the root of my issues. And that by taking control and understanding that this was not a normal conversation, this was not something easy to walk through, this was not something that, you know what, it's just a walk in the park. It wasn't. Because the ugly had to come up and come out. Okay. It wasn't just going through deliverance service. It wasn't just letting go at the altar. I had to really sit down and analyze some of the things that I really needed to let go. Whether it was family hurt, whether it was church hurt, whether it was job hurt, whether it was, homeless hurt, whatever those feelings that I was holding on to residing in, please understand that was back in 2007 with the stroke. I wasn't at a good space until maybe 2015, 16, because it was a process. Because let's be real, when we're going through those moments of releasing anger and letting go and trying to have conversations with people, when we're not really in a mature state to have those conversations, we begin to still what? Hurt people. Hurt people, hurt people. And many don't understand that the words that we say, our tongue has power. And I had to go back and apologize, not only to those people, but most importantly to God, because of my anger, of the thoughts that I had about people, of the thoughts that I had of how they treated me, the things that I said, whether they knew it or not, because of the anger that I had in my heart. By the age of 29, because I was still going through like this battle of grief and anger, not letting go, not knowing how to do it. You know what I'm saying? I almost had a heart attack before the age of 30. I'm in my 20s. Jaquell, what is going on? I had to really realize you have to let this go. And this is what helped me. When I was in high school, I had an amazing counselor, guidance counselor. And to to this day, I acknowledge her every chance I can. Her name is Casey. Miss Simonson helped me a lot when I was in high school. Even whether I was right, wrong, or indifferent, she saw a potential in me. Um, And it's because of her and those that were really close. But I acknowledge her because she would say this one thing: I understand, and I validate your feelings. I ain't never had nobody tell me that before. For once, I was having people listen to me. Somebody listen to me, whether I was right or wrong. You know, because when you're amongst people, sometimes when you're in counseling sessions, you probably still don't feel comfortable verbalizing everything. I think I was in Miss Stevenson office, and if anybody was at St. Francis High School, you already know Jaquell, was in Miss Stevenson office probably every day, whether it was good, bad, or different, because I began to have a relationship with this lady, and she took her time with me. It was a lot of layers, you know. You know, what was that movie Shrek? They both have layers. Oh, a lot of layers. You know, it was layers that she had to take off because I had a huge issue with trust. Even as I got grown, even just reaching out to her every blue moon, um, just to hear or see her messages of comfort, of encouragement, means a lot, even to this day. Um, and I didn't hear that for a while until around the age of 29 and meeting a therapist who says, let's validate what you're feeling. And he said, you could be angry. And I take this to my baby now. He said, you can be angry. You can be upset. You can be happy. You can be joyful. You can be scared. But I need you to verbalize what you're feeling. Because when you're internalizing your feelings, you are damaging your life. And at this time, Jaquell could not use her left side, could not understand the words that were coming out of her mouth. They tried to do physical therapy, they tried to do this and that, and I had a core support team, that was there for me. But because I could not process it, I did not have a willing mind. I did not understand really what to do, how to do, because I was feeling shocked. And I was still trying to hold on to bits and pieces so I can have this control. Not understanding that with that grief and anger, when it connects in that stance and in that negative form, you are allowing it to consume. It's just like a person, as we call them, a functional alcoholic, right? They're able to function, they go to work, they do everything that they're supposed to, and it doesn't matter to them. They're doing everything possible. When I say they're doing everything possible, they're doing every single thing, right? And when they're doing every single thing possible, they're doing it to the entirety of what? That I thank God that He had people, even though I was mad at them, even though I refused to pray, I refused to talk to God. I was so angry about my life. And I did not want to pray anymore. I didn't want to sing. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to do anything. And then there was one point that I was almost home when I had a stroke. I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand words that was going on. It affected my left side, so I couldn't walk. Man, I had some people that would take me back and forth to therapy because at this time I'm a teacher. I am teaching medical assistant courses. I am teaching medical billing and coders. I'm that teacher. We are doing community events. We are having fundraisers. We're doing all I'm doing all of this stuff. I'm still going to church, still angry, but I'm still getting up there the same because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to do this. I still got to be a mother because that's what I'm supposed to do. Until all of a sudden, my body could not take this no more. The medication wasn't working, right? I had other stuff going on. Nothing was subside. And even if I'm going out to have fun, laugh, going to karaoke, if you was the crew, you know what we was doing. You know what I'm saying? You know, don't let me hear Ti. Bring them out, bring them. I'm coming. I'm coming on flow. Okay, Juby better not hit the flow. Okay, don't have me here, Buster. I was a functional, but I still had all these feelings, all these reservations. I almost, I had a stroke behind the wheel of a car, and I'm going back to that moment because I want you to know how serious this is. When it consumes you and overtakes, I couldn't even see. I complained the day before, and I always tell everybody the day before I complained about this big giant snowstorm, not knowing that it was the snowstorm that prevented my car from going into someone's house because I had so much anger and rage. I can hear you ask me a question, and by the time you got to question number six, number seven, I am now responding to question number one, but you don't really understand what I'm saying. Anger will kill you. Dude, like, I'm just having like a, whoo, was like an epiphany how much God really loved me. That in spite of my rage, in spite of my anger, in spite of my selfishness, He still allows some snow to hit the ground because you're thinking emotionally, Jaquell. You're being emotional. You've been emotional all these years, and we need to have a conversation. So let me just go ahead and let this snow hit this ground. I need to slow you all the way down. I need to slow you down before you actually be angry, be upset, you can be mad. You can even feel a way about something because most people don't understand what you're dealing with, how you're feeling. You can even say, "Hey, I don't want to talk right now." And we, as people, should give you that much respect to give you that moment to process versus you lashing out versus just, because when I've noticed that when so many people, when we go on social media, we get an audience. And some audience agrees, some audience disagrees, and then it just blows up. Every time you go on social media, you're going to see somebody making a post, people commenting, there's a debate, there's a lot of anger and rage with it. There's so much happening right now that we can't even really like focus on what really needs that takes precedence because there's so much other things that's happening, and many of us are still walking around like this. Going around like this, and we're so tight that we can't even hear or see clearly because our emotions have. I hope I'm making sense. I wanted to go a different way, but God is always in control of what happens. And I think it's important that we take a moment to, like, I'm just self reflecting on how many times I failed dealing with rejection because I did not allow to let stuff go. I became rebellious because I didn't allow stuff to let go. And I developed so many medical issues that by grace, I still have a chance to reverse. I can push back. I can make better choices now. Now that I'm older, I was thinking like I don't get into it with things. I let people, you know, the people are gonna vent, say what they want to say, whether it's the truth or whether it's not the truth. We don't have to respond. Okay, that is their truth, whether it is factual evidence or not. That's their truth. And a lot of times, even when we listen to hearsays, we become a prejudgment because of that anger. Um, a lot of times, I knew stuff wasn't true but because I was in anger, I listened to it because either A, I probably didn't like that person, B, I was upset about the situation, C, I was just mad, so angry. You know, when I got to the root cause of what it was, I was better. I was able and much better to identify. Um, and this is something that we should do with our children. How was school today? Like, I actually take time to sit down when we're face to face talking about how school was. And if he did not feel good, if he was upset about something, let's talk about that. Why? Because I don't want him to build up these walls because that's what I did. And if you know some things that you went through and you want to avoid that with your next generation, conversations are important. Communication is key. It is imperative that we start talking and vocalizing what is really affecting us because it does. Not only does it affect us, but it affects those that are. I just want to touch on something: the coping strategies. Man, I keep reflecting about how good God is. Focus, trying to push through this. Um, we acknowledge what I was saying. How can that be done in a culture where we're forced to tell people, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. You can't cry. You gotta be strong. You gotta do this. Do we not know that we suppress and forces we force others to do things and to be in eradicate stages because this is what worked for me in previous times. It's not healthy. I feel like if a person is 3 or if they're 33, they need to cry, get it out because that helps your body. Like, yes, let it out. Get it all the way out. We don't want that. We don't want our body to be tense. We don't want to be in pain. You just bought that brand new mattress and your body's still tense. You just bought brand new pillows and your body's still aching. It's because of that internalized language that we did not use. Um, so I validate and I understand that you're angry. I understand that you've been going through. Right? And then now we got to express it. How do we express this safely? Sometimes we can't talk. Um, I think punching a wall is probably not healthy because you're probably going to damage your hands. Um, I was watching a show and there was I think it's called Yes Chef, and one of the chef he has a really he said I have really bad anger issues, and he had punched the floor, and by him punching the floor, he damaged his hand. Um, but punching a pillow because you're mad or holding it, squeezing it, you're releasing all that tension out of your body. Sometimes screaming in the pillow helps. Um, Running. Some people like to take boxing. Some people like to even, go to the gym, um, work out, whether it's, unless I'm in the water. But I'm just saying, like, there's so many outlets to physically help you release the tension out of your body, and it helps you. Um, Give yourself and others grace. How does that affect you with the anger piece? Setting boundaries. Um, and when I say setting boundaries, is sometimes I don't. And I said that earlier. We should be able to respect what you're feeling, what you're saying, understanding that what you're feeling is valid, right? Um, Going to support therapies and such forth. Healing is a process. This is not a performance, right? Sometimes we cry. Sometimes, if you're like me, I like to try to save my makeup as much as possible. So I'll be trying not to let the tears really, because I'll be looking like Tammy Faye Baker, raccoon eyes and all. Um, but sometimes I can't control it because you just gotta get it out. Healing is a process. It's not a performance. You don't have to pretend to express those feelings. Um, Ask yourself, and then sometimes it's some self-reflection. When was the last time you actually like screamed? Whether it was good situation or not so good situation. When was the last time you actually cried? Good, bad, or indifferent? When was the last time you really sat down and expressed how you felt? Like I said, I tried, I, you know, I have poetry, I'm in national books and things, this and that in nature, because I was trying to still cover up my feelings. And I wanted to be accepted by other things, be accepted by different people. Like, maybe this will work for me. But I still had that anger that was not letting go. Um, I want to definitely give some resources that, first of all, you're not alone. Um, and I hope it doesn't seem like I'm just this and that and the third. I just really wanted to touch on this anger. So this podcast is probably a little bit longer than normal, but I think it's imperative that we really jump into the piece of understanding that I could be really damaging myself in the long run, could be really hurting myself in the long run. It was a shocker for me to get inboxes of people saying, I never knew that I was even depressed. So can you imagine, if you don't even know that you've been depressed, how long you've been really, you know, allowing anger to control you? Let's talk about some resources. The National Alliance of Mental Health, Mental Illness, definitely available. There's so many therapy directives. There's always a national suicide prevention. I'm a person that definitely I would say to advocate, educate, and empower. I'm not saying that I am uh, the master at this, um, because I have not mastered being completely unbothered, right? I tell somebody, I said, whoa, that is definitely a master's class. Um, but I've matured in that area to where I do not respond. Um, and I definitely have been in a place now where me and God has this relationship to where I don't respond if He said don't respond. Even if I was like, oh, they're lying, right? They're doing this, and don't respond. The quote that my husband and I used to always say, I argue up these kids, and he would turn around and say, because I'm still in that food. Whether people believe it or not, you know within yourself, you know. And what's true to you is true to you. What's true to them is true to them. the purpose of you trying to get over those humps of those grievous stages, trying to get up that mountain, trying to come out of that crab mentality, trying to come over this, trying to go over that. Because now that I lost my job, now my car got repo, now I got an eviction notice on my door, and it's just so much, so much, so much, so much, and I keep feeling like I'm falling back. And I feel like I can't make it. I feel like this is it. I'm so angry because the biggest question that I had since the age of 14, and then why me? So I wonder, that's why I always reiterate that you're not by yourself, you're not this, you're not that. And most importantly, you're not alone. I said earlier about the scripture that we quote, and I'm going to read the New International Version, and it's Ephesians 4:26 to 27. Um, and it says, in your anger, do not sin. Okay, in verse 27, do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. So, what is all that telling us is that we affirming that anger is normal, but we also have to guide on how we process with the mindfulness and not destruction. And that's simply from the Word of God. Because now the King James Version said, don't let the sun go down in your wrath while you're still angry, right? So if we're still angry, we're still holding on to something, we're still dealing with this, that means I can be angry emotionally, but I should not be thinking negative about somebody. I should not be saying anything. Now I'm acting on my emotion, right? I'm acting on what it is. And if I really need God to take over the situation, how can I do that if I want to leave someone go? If I'm trying to do therapeutic measures, it makes no sense for me to do therapeutic measures if I don't know them. That's the right there. What is the purpose of me going to see my counselor, my therapist, and I'm not taking nothing back that they're telling me to do? What is the purpose of me constantly going to God and saying, Lord, I need you to do this, but I snatch it back from Him as I leave our conversation? Letting go, like the song said, be like frozen and let it go. It will harm you. It will try to take over you. The root of it is the rejection and the stronghold, strong men that are trying to overcome and make you subdue to that strong man. And if we don't understand and acknowledge that that's what it is, and that is over and overtaking and consuming me, I will continue to be in these stages. I will continue to fall. I will continue to hurt myself. And you're worth more. You're worth way, way more than that. You're worth more than that. Because if this wasn't important to you, then why would God allow us to even have this conversation? As we wrap this up, because I got to get ready to go. And like I said, I know it's probably way longer than what we anticipated, but I want to leave you with this promise from Psalms 34 and 18. And this is a new international version. It says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed. If you are feeling crushed today, take heart. You are not invisible to God. Your grief, your anger, your struggle, they matter. And you're not alone. Healing is a journey. The hope is coming. And with that being said, you all, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you guys joining us every week. Allow these things to not even be like a residue. Release it all. Some people don't have to take years and years and years like I did. We can really just let it and watch, even physically within 24 hours, how your body feels, how you feel, how things are feeling better. I want you all to know that you are loved. God loves you. You can do it. You can make it. You're not in this by yourself. You're not going to do it. You're not going to get wrong. You're not going to be afforded what God has predestined you. You will have the tools, the strategic strategies, the strategic tools to fight against anger. And you can bind strong with rejection. You can. Thank you for joining us. Once again, we'll see you next time in the Wild Podcast. How long was that?